Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. On today's episode we're going to be talking about EV adapters. Every type of electric vehicle adapter that you need to charge your car. We're going to talk about the differences between them, which one works for your car specifically, and how you use them in the wild. So let's dive in, let's take a look, hit that subscribe button, we're coming right back. Adapters. There are so many adapters on the market. Which one do you need? Which one do you use? Which one is good? Which one is bad? There are so many questions out in the crazy world of electric vehicles right now because we have so many different types of electric vehicles. Therefore, we unfortunately have so many different types of electric vehicle charging. So we're going to go over the basics of the different types of charging, the different types of plugs, the different types of way to adapt these chargers and plugs and adapters together to make something work. We're going to talk about all of these ways of doing this, and we're going to show you the different methods to use them. So let's dive in, let's take a look at some of our adapters here today, and let's talk about the future adapters and whether or not they're going to be as useful as they are right now. So let's take a look at some of our first adapters. You may have heard some of terminology being thrown out in this market before, like J1772, nacs, Tesla, J3400, CCS, CCS Type 1, CCS Type 2, CHAdeMO. There are so many different standards of charging, and we're going to be specifically talking about the US charging infrastructure, or most of North America in this case. We're going to be talking about the standards that we deal with here in the States and talking about the differences between them, the ones that are kind of disappearing and the ones that are kind of making their way into the markets as we speak. So we have a few different things to go over today. So we're going to first talk about what we're going to be covering today and some of the things we're not actually going to see. So one of the first things I want to bring up is we're not going to be talking about CHAdeMO specifically. Now, if you don't know what CHAdeMO is, CHAdeMO was a standard that was developed in Japan and was initially here in the United States on one of the first electric vehicles, which was the Nissan Leaf. Now, even to this day, Nissan Leafs are still being built and they are still using the CHAdeMO plug. Now, CHAdeMO is for DC fast charging. So if you don't know what DC fast charging is, there are two methods of charging vehicles. You have AC, which is your home electricity, and you have DC, which is something that you would use out in a public infrastructure at a very faster rate of charge. So the CHAdeMO plug was specifically designed for DC fast charging, means a rapid way of charging your vehicle if you are, let's say, on a road trip or need to charge up in a pinch because you need to, do a long trip that day, and so you just need to get a charge in and then, finish up your trip. So CHAdeMO was one of the first standards here in the United States where we saw fast charging. And you still do see this today because, like I was saying, the Nissan Leaf is one of the vehicles on the road right now that actually uses CHAdeMO for its DC fast charging. There are some other vehicles as well, but they are typically plug-in hybrids. So we're going to be primarily talking about EVs today, but keep in mind that plug-in hybrids also come across some of these standards as well. And we'll jump into that in a little bit. Also, talking about CHAdeMO, we're not going to dive too much into it. CHAdeMO has a very interesting round DC plug for their charging, and specifically on the Nissan Leaf, if you want to charge it using AC power, you're actually going to use a different standard, which is what they call the J1772 standard. So this is a standard, as we see right here, that uses this style connector. Now, the J1772 standard was developed a long time ago, and the J1772 standard was used for AC charging. So this way you can charge your vehicle, like let's say a Nissan Leaf, using this J1772 standard for AC charging, and of course you would use the CHAdeMO for DC charging. Now, of course, we've come a long way since then because at the time we actually had another person on the market creating vehicles that were, well, a different type of plug, and that would be the Tesla plug. So since Tesla has come out with the Tesla Model S, which has been over 10 years now, they have used the Tesla plug. Now, we referred to it as the Tesla plug for many, many years, but it is now, as of this past year of 2023, is considered to be the J3400 standard, which means that this plug is now going to become a standard. Now, you may have heard of it referred to as nacs, the North American Charging Standard, which is what Tesla called it when they were trying to get it as an actual standard in North America. So the Tesla plug, or the J3400, or the nacs plug, as you may know, is now going to be, moving forward, the standard for pretty much every car manufacturer on the road. However, this is not starting for a lot of manufacturers until 2025, or at least the end of 2024. And so other manufacturers will start adopting that onto their vehicles, moving from that point forward. In the meantime, every vehicle that's not a Tesla that is currently on the road is currently adopting the J1772 standard for its AC charging. So once again, your household charging, if you go home and you plug it into a garage somewhere, this is what you're going to be using to plug it in, J1772. Now, you also see these out in public as well, because some businesses or companies that you might even work for may have AC charging in their parking lot. And though it's not the fastest charging out there, you can definitely utilize this over the course of 3, 4, 5, 8 hours of your day, especially when you're sitting at your job. And you can plug your vehicle in, charge it up over that course of time, and then you have a full charge, or relatively close to full charge, on your way home from wherever you are. And so these are really popular in the wild as well. You're not going to only see DC fast chargers, you're also going to see some AC chargers. But at home, this is what you're going to use pretty much 100% of the time, is your J1772 standard. Or if you're a Tesla owner, you will be using the J3400 standard, or nacs, or Tesla connector. Now, the other thing we want to talk about as well is, well, what about fast charging? Well, if you are a Tesla owner, then you're probably very much used to supercharging, which looks identical to this plug. Slightly thicker cable, of course, but this is the same exact plug that you would be used to in the wild if you're charging your car on AC or on DC. So these are really, really versatile as far as the plugs go, because it's the same size plug. You don't have anything extra. It is just this, regardless of what you plug into, AC or DC, which is really, really nice. Therefore, the reason that it's becoming the J3400 standard here is for, well, one of these reasons is that it's just its size and its versatility to be able to use this plug, because it's not so big, it's easy to plug into your car. Now, if you're any other car on the market, you're going to be using CCS for your DC fast charging. Now, DC fast charging with CCS is slightly different here than it is over in other countries like Europe. For instance, they use what they call the CCS2 standard, which is a slightly different looking plug. And here we use the CCS1 standard. Now, I don't have an actual plug to show you for CCS. What I do have, though, is the J1772, which is actually the top portion of CCS, and then you have what they call the bottom portion, which is your DC fast pins. So as you can see, the top of this is the exact same thing as the J1772. In fact, I could show you that it plugs right in, just like that. But then you have these two larger pins in the bottom, which are for your DC fast charging. So you add this all together, you get CCS, but of course only the top piece, like we see here for AC charging, is just J1772. I know it seems a bit confusing. That's why we're trying to break this down a little bit for you. Now, let's talk about where you DC fast charge. Well, there's a few different places that you can DC fast charge. Now, a lot of you who maybe already are familiar with road tripping in a CCS vehicle like myself are probably pretty familiar with Walmarts. And that's because Walmart hosts a lot of Electrify America DC fast charging locations. And even though that is a very convenient place to be to charge up your vehicle, you can run in, pick up some snacks or food or whatever you need, use the restrooms, and about 30 minutes later you could come back out to your car that's relatively charged up for the next leg of your trip. But there are so many other companies out there that are doing CCS DC fast charging. So you have just a handful. You do have your Electrify America, you do have your EVgo, you have your charge point companies. You also have a lot of smaller utility companies that are hosting these. Now, depending on where you are, they actually might be built by one of the previous said companies, like ChargePoint designs their own chargers and then sends them out. There's also larger charging companies like ABB, Signet, and others that will actually sell their stuff to these other companies to use on their property. For instance, a big one in this area where I live in the southeast United States is Circle K. Circle K is starting to expand its DC fast charging network, and I've done a recent video on that where you can actually see me charging up my vehicle at a Circle K. And it's really interesting because you're stopping at a gas station in order to charge your electric vehicle. And I really hope that trend continues because a lot of gas stations have very convenient stores for you to jump in, grab some snacks, some, anything that you might need, use the restroom, run back out to your car, and once again, you're back on the road for your next leg of your trip. Now, I know I've kind of rambled on. I know this video was going to be about adapters, but I want to make sure we're all on the same playing field when it comes to what happened. Why do we have so many different standards? Why does this have to be so confusing? And hopefully this will be one of the last videos that I have to shoot about this because once again, moving forward in the future, we are going to see the nacs or the J3400 or the Tesla standard being used on hopefully every single vehicle manufactured. But keep in mind that right now we have vehicles on the road that are currently using CCS or J1772 for home charging. And so because of that, we have to keep in mind that adapters are going to be used not only now, but also in the future for quite a while because these cars are going to be on the road for quite a while. And so adapters are one of those things that will not go away anytime soon. So we do have to get comfortable with them. We do have to understand how they work, and we do have to make sure we get the right ones for our vehicle. So now that we've gone over all that, let's jump into adapters. All right, so now that we've gone over all that stuff, we're going to talk about every single adapter available that you would need right now to charge your vehicle. So once again, we're going to separate this into two categories. We are going to have the Tesla category, and we're also going to have the everybody else. So the J1772 and CCS vehicles with that port on their vehicle are going to go into one category, and if you drive a Tesla with the nacs or J3400 port, you're going to be in this category over here. And as we can see here on this table, we have a slew of adapters, and these adapters are used specifically for the type of vehicle that you have. And once again, we're looking at the differences between AC adapters for your home charging and DC adapters for your road trip charging. And so once again, these adapters are very well needed if you need to charge your type of vehicle, but you happen to be at a different charging station. So let's give some examples here and dive into what we're looking at. So let's start with if you own a Tesla vehicle, because this is actually the simpler of the two. If you own a Tesla vehicle, you're going to be used to this type of plug to charge it, which is the Tesla plug. So now let's say that you're in the wild and you come across a charger, but it doesn't have this plug. Well, the question is, well, how do I charge my Tesla if I don't have this plug? And so we're gonna go right now, we're gonna put this away because you don't have access to that plug anymore. Got it. So you don't have access to that plug anymore. Well, how do you charge up if you come across a J1772 plug? Now, these are very common in public charging areas. We have some at our local shopping outlets here and some other places. And typically when you get these stations installed, they do come with a J1772 handle because once again, unless you're a Tesla, everybody else is using the J1772 standard. So what do you do in that case? Well, if you're a Tesla owner, you're actually quite lucky because you get in your vehicle when you purchase it a J1772 to Tesla charging adapter. You should have this with your vehicle when you purchased it. If not, of course, you could purchase these online, of course. And the one thing I want to say is I do a lot of charging adapter reviews on this channel. So if you're interested in any of these charging adapters, you could take a look, go into my channel, search adapter, and you will come across all the charging adapters that I have reviewed over the course of time. And so this might be helpful for when it comes to your choosing of which adapter you need and which adapter specifically in that category. So you have a Tesla vehicle and you want to charge utilizing a J1772. Now, once again, you get this adapter with your vehicle, which is a J1772 to Tesla plug, which means that you take the J1772 handle from the charging station that you're at, you plug it into the adapter like so, and now you have a Tesla end to plug into your vehicle. So nothing changes as far as activating the charger. You still use the charging app for that particular charger, or in this case, if it's a free charger, let's say that's in someone's garage or whatever, because you're, hanging out at someone's house, you want to charge up your car, this is how you would do it with that adapter. Now, luckily for you, once again, you usually get these with your Tesla vehicle. So if you don't have one, look everywhere. And of course, if you just don't have one at all, you can always purchase one. So that is the easy way to adapt your vehicle. Now, that is for Tesla vehicles if you want to charge it over an AC charger. Now, let's say you come across a DC fast charger. You're taking your Tesla on a road trip, you're going across country, and you come across the Walmart, let's say, and it has a DC fast charger in the parking lot. But it's like an Electrify America or an EVgo. It doesn't have a Tesla plug on it. So what do you do in that case? Well, you can use this adapter here. And this is the CCS to Tesla adapter. So you can actually buy this straight from Tesla's website, and it's one of the many that are on the market, but I do highly recommend the Tesla one because you know it's going to work properly for your Tesla vehicle. This is once again, a CCS plug here. So you take the CCS handle off of the charger. Let's just pretend that this is a CCS handle. Obviously, it would be a lot bigger because it needs to have these extra pins at the bottom like you see on this adapter. And you're going to take that large CCS handle, you're going to plug it into the said adapter like so. It's going to snap in just like any other adapter. And then you plug the Tesla side into the vehicle. Now, I know what you're saying. Look at the size of this compared to this, right? This is why we're going to the nacs standard moving forward because of how much smaller and easier this is to use. So plugging your CCS handle into your adapter and then plugging this into the vehicle, once again, same rules apply for when activating the charger to get the charging going for your vehicle, but that is the adapting method that you would use. And of course, once again, there are plenty of options on the market that you can buy, slightly different ways that they build them and design them, but once again, I highly recommend looking into the Tesla one. Now, let's go to the other side of things for a little bit. So let's say you are an owner who owns a Mustang Mach-E, you own a Chevy Bolt, you own a Mercedes EQE, a Porsche Taycan, you own any car other than a Tesla vehicle, even plug-in hybrids at this point, you're going to be very much used to plugging in at a J1772 like we were seeing before, this plug right here, in your garage or even out in public. And of course, if you're fast charging your EV, you're going to be used to the CCS plug that you would get at a Electrify America, EVgo. Once again, when you're road tripping, you plug it into your car. Now, let's say that you just so happen to come across a destination charger. You go to a hotel for the night and you see some Tesla chargers. And you're like, hey, look at this. They have EV chargers here. But wait, it's a Tesla handle and my vehicle doesn't take this plug. Well, of course, luckily for you, they make adapters for this as well. So you can actually adapt from a Tesla handle like this one here and go to the J1772 standard. So as you can see here on the table, we have a lot of different adapters here. They come in small sizes like this. They come in large sizes like this. These are all the same adapters. As you can see here, this one has a screen on it for being able to monitor the amperage and the voltage and the temperatures of this adapter while it's being plugged in and charging. So there are so many different flavors of these adapters on the market. And so you do have to be careful of which ones that you pick and choose, because sometimes they may not be rated properly for what your vehicle needs. We're going to talk a little bit about amperage and kilowatts in a little bit, and as far as how these adapters work, and go on from there and kind of talk about that a little bit. But let's move back onto the adapter situation. So once again, when you look at these adapters, you have on one side of the adapter is the Tesla side, and on the other side is the J1772 side. So once again, you're going to be taking your adapter that you probably leave in your car. You're going to go to that hotel charging station that has the Tesla N, and you're going to take that and you're going to plug it into the adapter, and now you have a Tesla to J1772 adapter, and this way you can charge your vehicle regardless of what it is using this setup here. And so that's a really nice way for you to be able to take advantage of hotel charging, or even, once again, if you happen to be at a friend's house and they have a Tesla wall connector instead of a J1772 charger, you can have a way to charge your vehicle utilizing what's already there and not have to go out and find another charging station. And another thing about this is sometimes you come across hotels where they have, two J1772s, and then they have two charging stations that are Tesla. And you might come across a hotel where both of those J1772s have already been taken, and you might see that those two Tesla chargers are not taken. So why not take advantage of it with using an adapter? Now, once again, Teslas do come with their adapter, so they can use the J1772 standard to charge their vehicle. You should be able to adapt yours to the Tesla plug to charge your vehicle. All right, so now, if you're thinking of it, I'm pretty sure you're going to ask, well, what happens if I want to charge my CCS vehicle at a Tesla supercharger? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because it's a great one, and it's one that's currently being addressed as we speak. So a small subset of vehicle manufacturers have been granted access to Tesla superchargers, and they will be given this ability to charge at Tesla superchargers in the very near future. We're talking beginning to mid of 2024. And so those beginning manufacturers will be Ford and GM, and then moving on from there, as almost every manufacturer has agreed to use the Tesla charging port on their vehicles moving forward from 2025. But, of course, once again, a lot of vehicles on the road will have the CCS port on their vehicle, not the Tesla. So how do you adapt that? Well, coming soon, you're going to start seeing adapters for those CCS vehicles. And I just so happen to have one right here. And this is a Tesla supercharger to CCS adapter, which means that you'll be able to charge your CCS vehicle utilizing this adapter at Tesla superchargers as soon as they become available. So for instance, you're at a Tesla supercharger, you want to charge your Ford Mustang Mach-E or your Chevy Bolt. You grab the Tesla supercharging handle, throw it into this adapter like so, and then you plug this end into your CCS vehicle, now allowing you to charge your CCS vehicle at a Tesla supercharger. We have come full circle now when it comes to charging adapters, and the ability to do that regardless of the vehicle that you own. And it's really cool that this is going to continue to roll out in the years to come on pretty much every single vehicle manufacturer out there. And so this is really, really cool to see that. So once again, you'll be able to charge up your Tesla vehicle utilizing not only AC charging, DC charging. Then if you have a CCS vehicle right now, like I do, in the future, you want to charge using a Tesla plug at an AC charger, like this, using that adapter, or In the future, you'll be able to do that utilizing this adapter here to charge your CCS vehicle at a Tesla supercharger. Really cool, really awesome to see. Adapters are going to be a very necessary thing moving forward, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that plays out. Now let's go over a couple things real quick as far as the limitations of adapters. Now, adapters, they are not perfect. They're not going to be the thing you throw in your car and you use every single day for 10 years. It won't happen. They are a wear and tear item. They will get used and they will get abused in certain people's cars because they could get thrown around. If you don't keep it in a nice area, it could be thrown around your trunk. It could be thrown around a door panel. These adapters will have a finite amount of uses before they are going to burn out and not be used anymore. And parts can loosen up internally if they're getting thrown around a lot. And so it's very important that if you have an adapter in your vehicle, regardless of if you own a Tesla and have one of these small adapters, or if you have one of these larger adapters in your vehicle, there will be a day that that adapter no longer works. So it's very, very important that you keep these adapters safe in a spot where they're not going to get thrown around. And when you do use them, you're only using them for the amount of time you absolutely need to use them and not overuse them to the point where they're actually going to burn out and possibly cause an issue. Not all adapters are created equal. Some of them are built very well, some of them are built not so well. And you really do have to be careful on the adapters that you do purchase to make sure that you get a quality adapter. Like I was saying before, if you're going to buy an adapter, make sure you buy a quality brand one like this Tesla one for a CCS to Tesla adapter. It's a really nice adapter. It doesn't cost that much. And for what little dollars more than another adapters on the market, I definitely think this is a fantastic one to keep in your vehicle. And once again, keep it someplace safe. Put it in a nice bag, someplace that's going to be, keeping it protected. That's what you really want to use, especially when you're talking about putting that much power through these DC fast charging adapters. They take a lot of power and they need to be nice and robust to do that. And so that's why it's very important to get the adapters that are going to withstand whatever you throw at them. And so let's talk about other limitations of adapters. Now, adapters don't have the same power limitation. So for instance, let's talk about this in amperage. So certain adapters, like let's say AC adapters, some of them are rated to go up to, let's say, 40 amps, like this one here. This adapter is only rated to go up to 40 amps of charging. Now, most vehicles nowadays will have a 48 amp onboard charger. That's what they call it. So the car itself is actually the charger. The thing that you grab the handle out of and plug in is really not the charger. That is actually called the EVSE, the electric vehicle supply equipment. It's actually just taking the power from your circuit panel or wherever it is, and it's just pushing that power through that little box on the wall and pushing it into the car. And the car is actually taking that power and adjusting it as needed in order for it to charge the battery. And so that's technically not the charger on the wall. This is not the charger. This is the EVSE. The charger is actually in the car. The charger is actually what fixes that power so it puts it into the battery properly. And so adapters, because they have to be in between the charging equipment and the actual charger of the vehicle, this has to take whatever the actual EVSE is going to be sending in through this adapter and into that vehicle. So that is very important. Now, I know before I was talking about chargers in the wild and I kept saying chargers, chargers, chargers. This is the typical term that most people use to refer to those. When you grab the handle out of the charger and plug it into your car, that's technically not the charger. It is the electric vehicle supply equipment. But because it's such common knowledge that people just call them chargers, you'll hear me refer to them as chargers as well. But your adapter must be able to withstand what the EVSE or charger sends into the vehicle and the vehicle's willing to accept. So for instance, if you have a vehicle with a 48 amp onboard charger and you have a 40 amp rated adapter, if you try to put 48 amps through this adapter, there's a very good chance that you're going to prematurely wear this adapter out and possibly cause it to overheat and possibly even, well, it could get worse. Let's just say that. And so it is very important that you understand not only what you're plugging your vehicle into, but also what you're bringing into the equation. And so you want to make sure that you do some research on your vehicle to know exactly what your vehicle has, exactly what your vehicle could take. And if you do want to buy an adapter of any sort, you want to make sure you get an adapter that's robust enough to handle the power you're going to be passing through this adapter. So that is extremely important. Now let's talk about some basic rules real quick, and then we'll kind of go from there. If your vehicle has a 48 amp onboard charger, that means no matter what you plug into it, it will never go above 48 amps. Now in this case, we're talking about AC charging here, not DC charging. We'll get to that in a little bit. So 48 amps of power coming from that charger into your vehicle means that you have to have an adapter that can withstand at least 48 amps. So I usually recommend going with something a little bit bigger, like a 60 amp adapter. Even go up to an 80 amp adapter if you want to spend a couple extra bucks. Go for something that's more robust. Go for something that's going to be able to handle the extra power going through that adapter. Now you also have vehicles out there that have 80 amp onboard chargers. That means that you could potentially come across a charger, EVSE, in the wild that can push out 80 amps of energy through your adapter and into your vehicle, and your vehicle will accept full 80 amps of energy from that charger. Now, if you have an adapter that's only rated for, let's say, 60 amps, well, that's not going to work well either. You're going to, once again, prematurely burn out the adapter, causing issues, and you don't want to do that. You especially don't want to do that out in public. You could cause, well, worst case scenario, you can cause a fire from the adapter going through too much, especially if the adapters are not well made. So what you want to really do is get an adapter that's going to meet the criteria of your vehicle and even bump it up a little bit. If you have a vehicle that can accept up to 48 amps of AC power, get a 60 amp adapter at minimum. If your vehicle can accept up to 80 amps of energy into the vehicle, get an 80 amp adapter and get a good 80 amp adapter. Don't buy the cheapest 80 amp adapter you see on Amazon. Try to buy something that's nice and robust and can withstand the energy for long periods of time to charge your vehicle. Now, let's talk about the same rules and principles, but on DC charging. So with DC fast charging, there are a lot of rules that apply to that. And there are a lot of variables that can also affect the charging speed at which your vehicle can charge. And a couple of those variables are the limitation of your vehicle itself, whether or not it could charge at certain speeds, the temperature of the battery at the time that you're plugging it in to charge, whether it be too cold or too hot. And of course, the charging station itself could be limited based on its type of charging station. So DC fast charging can range anywhere from 50 kilowatts roughly all the way up to about 350 kilowatts of energy. Now you're probably thinking, well, I'll just always plug into the fast one because faster is always better. But that's not always true when it comes to fast charging. A lot of cars out there have a limitation speed, and that means that it can only charge as fast as it can based on perfect variables across the board. So let's say that you have a Chevy Bolt and you want to fast charge it, and you come up to a station that allows you to charge at 350 kilowatts. Now, you're probably going to wonder why you're not getting 350 kilowatts in a Chevy Bolt. That's because the Chevy Bolt, even though it is a fantastic vehicle, only has the ability to charge at around 50 kilowatts, maybe 55. But if you get everything just perfect in that vehicle, the temperature, everything's perfect, you're really only going to charge at around 50 to 55 kilowatts, which means you don't really need to plug into a high power charger. Like let's say at Electrify America, there's no reason for you to plug into a 350 kilowatt. You should really be plugging into the 150 kilowatt stations, or even if there is a one available, there's even 50 kilowatt stations on some of the older ones. So if you have a certain vehicle, you should know the capabilities in which it can charge, at least the maximum speed at which it can charge, so you know which charger to go to. Now, of course, we don't have this issue with Tesla chargers so much because most of them are capable of a maximum of 250 kilowatts, unless you come across a version 2, which are about 150 kilowatts. Of course, they can get split based on the amount of vehicles that are there. So usually there's a rule of skipping spots. I'm going to assume that most people already know this already if you own a Tesla, but if you don't, we could discuss that more in a future video. So if you're charging your vehicle, you should always know the maximum amount of speed that it could take at a DC fast charger. So for instance, I have a Ford Mustang Mach-E as well. I know that that car will max out no more than 120 kilowatts because of its battery size, and if I get it at perfect temperatures while road tripping, if everything is just perfect, it will maybe hit 120 kilowatts for a very short while. So I usually plug into the 150 kilowatt stations because I don't need anything more than 150 kilowatts to be able to put the energy into my vehicle. All right, everybody. Well, I hope this video helped you out. Once again, there's a lot of rules and a lot of things that go into adapters for electric vehicles. And even though we are pretty much adopting nacs across the board moving forward, or J3400 or the Tesla standard, whatever you want to call it, even though we've pretty much adopted that across the board, we are still going to see a lot of vehicles on the road that are going to require adapters for a very long time. And so I hope this video helped you out. And if it did, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you have other people in your family or friends that are learning about this stuff as well, because we have a lot of new EV drivers on the road, share the video out to people. Share it down below. You see a share link, copy and paste the URL, send it to people, let them see it. Hopefully this video helps them out as well. Gives them a little bit of insight as to what they need, the equipment they need, and hopefully a little insight onto how to charge your vehicle properly, regardless of where you are. Anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today's episode. And of course, if you're interested in any adapters and you want to see these adapters, I test a lot of these on my channel. Once again, click on the channel link, search for adapters. You will see a ton of these adapters on my channel that I have reviewed in the past. Anyway, I'd like to thank you very much again for watching today's episode. I hope this helped you out. And make sure you stay tuned to the channel for more videos like this, and subscribe as well. All right, everybody, we'll see you on the next episode, and we'll talk to you soon.